The early history of the restored church is a history of people and land. Within the first days of the Book of Mormon's publication, the prophet's attention focused on the borders of the Lamanites. God commanded Joseph Smith to organize the church on Tuesday, April 6, 1830. In that same year, on Friday, May 28, President Andrew Jackson signed into law the Indian Removal Act. A law that authorized the president to grant unsettled lands west of the Mississippi in exchange for Indian lands within existing state borders. A few tribes went peacefully, but most resisted the relocation. This law had a profound effect on the history of land rights in America. Within 18 months of the law's enactment, many Native Americans were refugees in strange lands near Missouri's western border. At that same time, Joseph Smith was across the river from these displaced natives, looking in Jackson County for the exact spot of the New Jerusalem. The prophet precisely placed a cornerstone for the temple from which Jesus Christ would rule and reign during the Millennium. That spot of land has not changed, and as believers, we fully expect that Joseph Smith's prophecy will be fulfilled. As a matter of fact, on December 19, 1831, Bishop Edward Partridge, on behalf of Joseph Smith and the church, purchased 63 acres. This was to be the first piece of land that the church ever purchased. At the time God declared, "An house shall be built unto the Lord and a cloud shall rest upon it." The church's history has been dramatically affected by this prophecy's connection to this land. Our stated focus is to find the lost city of Zarahemla. In that effort, we look to the revelations of Joseph Smith to determine a link to that great city of the Book of Mormon. During the turmoil and disruptions of the church's history in Missouri, the prophet in 1837 became aware that Isaac Gallen was selling land from the half-breed tract that would later become known as Lee County, Iowa. Joseph Smith started these transactions at a time when the saints would lose their land in Missouri. By 1839 the church had purchased 18 times more land in Iowa as it had in Illinois. These were formative and challenging years for the church. The members of the church for the next 6 years would concentrate its time and effort on the building of the new city of Nauvoo and a temple. Just across the river, the church had significant land holdings. In March 1841 God revealed to Joseph Smith that these lands were to be called Zarahemla. This revelation is the crucial link from church history that brings us to Lee County. Nearly 2 centuries have gone since that time when the saints were in Iowa. There are some remarkable facts concerning the lands of Zarahemla. It is as though the Lord has reserved the land for our time. Today there are only a few thousand people who live on the farmland of Lee County. Many of the county townships have populations that are smaller today than they were 150 years ago. The land consists mainly of wide open cornfields. Every year, after the corn harvest, the fields are wide open. Today certain technologies are available from Germany that make it possible to determine differences of magnetic forces that come out of the ground. The measurement of these forces is extraordinarily accurate and delicate. An MRI brain scan uses the measurement of magnetic forces to diagnose the body's critical functions. Using these same principles of science, the Germans have designed equipment that can scan the land. The other fact is that the heat of fire changes the soil's magnetic signature. With GPS positioning and fluxgate sensors, it is possible to record subtle magnetic differences to locate fire pits and features of an ancient city buried in the ground. In effect, with modern science, we can see patterns of habitation and living that a civilization left in the ground thousands of years ago. We now have these pieces in place. 1. The availability of open crop lands after this year's harvest. 2. The permission from farmers to scan 1,000 and more acres during the 2nd and 3rd weeks of November 2020. 3. The contract for the delivery of the Sensi's MX-M3 scanning equipment from Germany to Iowa by the 1st week of November. 4. The availability of the very lands that Joseph Smith bought nearly 200 years ago from Isaac Gallen. 5. The same land that God in 1841 told Joseph Smith to call Zarahemla. The funding is secured. All the pieces are in place. In 4 weeks, we will push into the unknown. We are looking for the location of the most important city in the Book of Mormon. By Christmas, we will have more to say about Zarahemla than anyone has been able to say since the time of Joseph Smith. Stay tuned.